Welcome to Sixth Row Center, the best seat in the house for movie chat. That's JD. I'm Heath, and today we'll be talking about the 2000 dark comedy slash horror film American Psycho, which was directed by Mary Harron, who has 6 directing credits to her career, nothing anywhere near as big as American Psycho. And it was written by Guinevere Turner, who also has a bunch of credits, but nothing I've ever heard of when I looked at her IMDb. It was based on the novel of the same name by Bret Easton Ellis, who is pretty famous. He's written 8 novels, and his first 4 all were made into movies. He also has written some scripts for some movies, although they didn't do very well. I saw one of them recently, and it was actually pretty bad. It starred James Dean, not the James Dean you're thinking of, who's been dead for 70 years, but a porn star named James Dean. He was the star of the movie. Anyway, the movie starred Christian Bale in a brilliant performance and had a great ensemble cast of lots of people. Willem Dafoe, Jared Leto, Justin Theroux, Chloe Sevigny, Samantha Mathis, Reese Witherspoon, Cara Seymour, and Josh Lucas. It was made on a $7 million budget and grossed $34 million. So it made 5 times its budget, which is pretty good. But the reviews were mixed. A lot of people didn't like the sex and the violence and stuff. However, it eventually acquired the distinguished tag of cult favorite. I saw it way back when it first came out. I didn't see it at the theater, but I probably saw it like within a year after it came out on cable in like 2001. And I've seen it many times since then. Surprisingly, JD, you saw it for the very first time recently. What did you think?
I loved it. I loved it. I had some vague idea of what it was about or what it was like, but I just had somehow just never sat down to watch it. But I was surprised. To me, it was a very, very differently shot film and very playful. Again, to me, it's a horrific subject matter and everything, and very serious. Even the underlying themes are more serious. But I found the whole thing very, very playful, almost a romp. The characters, the directing was excellent. The acting was absolutely superb. Everybody, even in retrospect, the more I've stewed on this, the more I really appreciated the performances from everybody. Even Reese Witherspoon played that character amazingly. Willem Dafoe, who's pretty much always a treat whatever he's in, but
love him.
But again, that character, everybody was just a little bit off, right? It almost felt like not like a comic book movie, not a superhero movie, but it was very entertaining despite the very heavy subject matter.
I could see comic bookish as in like over the top kind of.
Yeah, very much over the top, right? I mean, there's no denying that. I mean, again, I feel a little awkward saying it was playful, but it was
playful murder.
Yeah, it was over the top. And not to give away spoilers, I assume anybody who's watching this has already seen the film, but he tells you right from the very beginning, like almost the opening monologue, he sets up the whole movie and who he is and
who he is.
It's unapologetic. And again, I think you have more understanding and some more thoughts on the more serious themes, and we'll get to that here in a minute. But speaking of which, what did you think of it?
I totally agree with you. I loved it. Again, I've seen it a bunch of times. I would say if you're going to watch our show or listen to the podcast, I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about some spreadsheets that I have, all the movies that we've seen, thousands and thousands of them. And eventually when it's finished, it's going to have like 10,000 movies rated from the best movie number 1 to the 10,000th best movie. And then there's a second spreadsheet that talks about the different qualities of a film. And I'm sure we're going to talk about all those different qualities. This particular movie, one of the things I think about is the memorability of it. Like memorable scenes, memorable quotes, memorable lines. There's so much in this. And I don't want to like spoilers and all, but there's a lot of, you were talking about at the beginning when Christian Bale is the star, and his character is named Patrick Bateman, and he is the American Psycho, and he does a lot of monologuing, a lot of voiceover, telling you who he is. This stuff was taken directly from the book. I happen to have read the book, and it's great. Like, there's so many great lines. Some of the really memorable things I thought were when he talks about the different bands, when he talks about Huey Lewis and the News, or when he talks about Genesis, or when he's talking about Whitney Houston. And it seems like he likes to talk about musicians like this right before he murders people horrifically. I mean, there's a scene of him running through an apartment complex, like corridors, naked, carrying a chainsaw, running after somebody. I mean, these are just things that are very memorable. And one of my absolute favorite parts is near the very end, where he calls his lawyer, who isn't there. So he leaves a message. He's leaving this long, rambling message confessing all the horrible things that he's done in his life. It's brilliantly acted. It's brilliantly written. As an aside, when I used to go out auditioning for roles, you always keep a couple of monologues in your back pocket. And that was one that I always had memorized. I never used it because I was always afraid that it would turn people off. but I had that one memorized. And because it is just totally brilliant. What did you find any particular things that you remember?
Like you said, there's many scenes. There's some good quotes. I found the whole movie, again, very enjoyable. Like, that to me is what stands out. I expected it to be heavy, and I also expected it to be very psychological, and that's not what I found. Like, discussing it, you get more into those heavier themes and stuff. But just watching it, it reminds me of the show Happy. Did you ever see that?
Oh,
it stars, I forget the guy's name from Law and Order SVU.
I know who that is, but I can't remember his name.
It's completely bonkers. He's like a
Okay.
Patrick Bateman character, but I think he's like a cop or something. Like, he embraces his stuff, and he has a cartoon imaginary friend that's in the show and follows him around and talks to him and stuff. Like, it's a very, very playful show, despite the fact that it is horrifically violent. I mean, and drug use and, just extreme violence throughout. Like, again, comic book level. It's so extreme that you can't take it seriously. I forget. Anyway, it was the same. And of course, it came out after American Psycho, and it takes the same kind of concept and just ups it once more, and takes some of I didn't find any underlying heavy themes to Happy. It's just for fun, The character is kind of sort of a good guy, or at least more of a hero, because he walks into these horrific situations and just decimates people, and himself. It's just.
I thought there were some kind of interesting themes to American Psycho. A lot of it really satirizes yuppie culture of the 80s, and trying to, grab the brass ring, make as much money as you can. It was all about who was wearing the best brands, who was going to the best restaurants, and how all these people were completely replaceable. Each person could have been anyone else. Like, Bateman has a group of colleagues that he works with, and they're always forgetting whose name is whom, because they're all interchangeable. They're all the same person. It says a lot about those people.
And it was talking with you about the film that made me realize that. I picked up, of course, on the yuppie theme and everything, but he is so dialed out right from the minute one that I did not take it as representational. But when you pointed it out, I totally see it. That was part of it. From part of his trouble is that he is completely interchangeable with all his peers, especially the one guy he keeps getting mistaken for.
Yeah, Halberstam.
Yeah.
And he wants people to see him. He wants to be noticed. He's constantly telling people, I murder people, I do these horrible, and everyone just ignores him, or just they hear him but they don't listen,
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people in the world feel that way, that they are trying to express themselves but nobody hears them. and hopefully it doesn't cause them to go completely insane and murder people. But I think that's a big part of the story.
Yeah, yeah, no. Again, after I see that more in retrospect, but absolutely that's there throughout. And even I did pick up one of the themes that's repeated throughout the movie, where he, like again, very early in the movie, in the first 10 minutes or so, they're at a bar, and the waitress, I don't even remember what she did to cause his ire. But he tells her point blank, "I want to kill you and bathe in your blood," and
Yes.
then pays her for the drink and
Yes.
walks away.
Yeah. Yeah. He's constantly telling people. That's the one thing that I noticed. I didn't notice actually until I was watching the commentary by, I can't remember if it was the director or the writer, but she was talking about how, like, second by second, Bateman would be having conversations with people, and then the person would say something and it would set him off. And you'd see, I didn't even notice this while I was watching it, and I've seen it a bunch of times. Like, somebody would say something, and then you'd see him like grab a knife off a shelf, and then he'd like stop and put it back down and walk off. You're like, it never even occurred to me, wow, he was about to kill somebody, and then he changed his mind. That was going on through the whole movie.
He can barely contain himself. And I didn't. Here's the one thing that I found interesting. Yeah, until the end, which was dramatic. To me, Christian Bale is one of those guys like Brad Pitt. Like, F you, buddy. You have it too good in life. Like, I'm just too jealous of him to ever actually praise him. But it was phenomenal. Really good job of playing that character.
An interesting story I just saw the other day. I was watching an interview with the writer of the book, Bret Easton, Ellis, who wrote his first novel in many years, a couple years ago, 2023, I think it was. And he went on like a tour talking about it. But of course, everybody wanted to talk about American Psycho, because that's like his most famous novel. And he was talking about the beginning development of the movie. And the original director who was attached in the mid 90s was, of all people, David Cronenberg, who, I mean, David Cronenberg does horror, of course, but is more like, body horror kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And who did David Cronenberg decide to be Patrick Bateman? He actually was attached to the movie to be Patrick Bateman.
Who?
Brad Pitt.
Oh, yeah.
Brad Pitt.
Nah, exactly. And I can see Brad Pitt do it. It's like 12
Totally.
Monkeys, Fight Club kind of mashup character. Although, again, even those movies were more, I don't know, more grounded in reality. Like American Psycho is, and we'll discuss this again, I'm sure, in a moment here, but was ambiguous and like it's not grounded in reality. Right. The movie, you couldn't, as much as these are relatable themes and stuff, you can't imagine, I can't imagine this happening in real life. You can't get away
with it. I agree with
it.
you to a point, because of the Patrick Bateman character. And yet, I think the rest of it was really grounded in reality. All the characters around him, who on the surface were kind of ridiculous, like all his friends.
Yeah.
And his girlfriends, and his lover, and the different characters, the detective. But I know people like all those people. I know people who were like, all they cared about was having the best car, or getting the best reservation at a restaurant, or all they cared about is having the largest bank account, or being with the hottest chick. And these girls who were just doing a lot of coke, or doing, not maybe not now, but back in the day.
Yeah.
And then he was there. Obviously, that took it out of the grounding in reality. But I thought the story was like, I don't know how to say it. The world built was very realistic, and then he became unrealistic in it.
Yeah, and it was definitely putting a spotlight on the yuppie culture and stuff. Interestingly, though, he himself does not talk about money. And he's also literally obsessed with those things that you just discussed, the reservations. It bothers him to the point where he murders people because they had a better reservation than he did. And the business cards, and
the business card. What a great scene.
It all so, because money is not even a thought to him, right? He was the owner's son from the business and could have anything he wanted. He lived, but everything else mattered very deeply. Like he was
His
hurt
image.
by the
His
fact
image.
that somebody didn't like his business card, and in fact he acknowledged, oh, this guy's card is even better. F him, you know.
That was one of the scenes where he's got these two prostitutes in his apartment, and at one point he's got these prostitutes in a man who he's murdered his apartment. He's got him in Paul Allen's apartment,
Right.
and then he's got him in his apartment. And one of the prostitutes says something about how, oh, this apartment's not as nice as the other one, and you see him get like he's going to kill her, and then it kind of smooths over. But yeah, it's just the
No,
littlest
yeah, I
things.
remember that. I remember that scene. Yeah, like that was his identity. And
Yes,
again, right from the beginning, when he said, "You can touch me, you can see me, but I'm simply not here," right?
not
Like
there.
he
I love
is
that line. I
he's
love that line.
aware. Yeah, yeah. There's nothing here. I don't know that he is even trying to be heard. He's trying to feel something and trying to make himself real. And I hadn't thought about it. We're discussing it now. Like he's so ungrounded from reality
One
that
of the great filmmaking little visuals when he's saying that at the very beginning, he's doing his morning rituals, and part of it is like, washing his face and stuff. And he does this mask, this peel away mask. And as he's saying, there's nobody there, he's peeling off the mask, and there's
yeah,
just, and it's
right.
just,
Even behind the mask, there's
great,
nothing.
man. This movie was so good on so many levels.
Again, I hadn't really quite thought about it that way, but even behind the mask, there's nothing there. Like he cares about his business card and his dinner reservations, which he doesn't even seem to care actually about the food, right? And in the same
The
way,
food was ridiculous. It's funny, in the book, they talk a lot about all the different dishes that the people are eating. And the author talked about how he would just make up the stupidest combinations of foods that nobody would ever eat, that nobody would ever think was delicious in any way or tasted good. And these people were all about, oh my God, the cat food caviar. Have you tried it?
Yeah, yeah. And they were competitive
They
for the
wanted it.
reservations to
It
go
was
eat that
status. It
cat
was
food
status.
caviar or whatever. Yeah. Status, right.
At the very end, when he's doing the monologue again, he's saying the same thing, basically, how he's there's just nothing there, even though he's told you about all these things that he's done. It doesn't matter because nothing's going to change. And when we discussed this previously, you had said about how what that meant to you, and how you can you remember that and re-say that one?
Yeah, well, to me, I mean, we're getting to the crux to
Yeah,
me. I
yeah,
think that as far as discussions of the movie go, this is the meat of it, right?
yeah.
We have two different takes on it. You're more
Totally different
informed,
takes.
so I totally, and I don't disagree with the themes that you illuminate, but to me, the movie tells you pretty much expressly that all of this really did happen within the movie. And his lawyer has basically, and the people around him have covered up for him. And he's going to get away with it yet again. And he is looking for release. In the end, he says, there'll be no release. I'm stuck in this nightmare and I'm going to live out this empty life because nobody will stop me.
At the one, he's saying that you can't see it because it's so small, but there's a sign on the wall right behind him as he's saying it, and it says, "This is not an exit." And it's supposed to mean exactly what you're saying. He's never going to get out of here. He's stuck here forever, which I agree with. And yeah, it's really interesting that we saw completely different movies, because I totally did not see that the people in his life were kind of aiding and abetting. Instead, I saw it more as we were discussing how nobody sees him. Just nobody sees him. So nobody believes that he would do anything like that. Nobody even notices him at all, let alone that he could be somebody doing these horrific things. So I didn't see them necessarily, helping him or aiding him and abetting him. Interesting. It's just really interesting that we saw that kind of differently.
Well, and it's critical, and we're getting into spoilers now, but so be it, right? Because this is
the movie's 25 years
fun
old.
Conversation, and I think the themes you identify are correct, but to me, his reaction at least spells it out, right? Like he wanted to be caught. He's confessing in an open public party, and the lawyer is telling him to shut up, right? I mean, his words
he
are
never
not,
says to shut up. He says he doesn't believe him. That's what I got from it.
He says he's giving him the whole alibi. Like, you're not going to be in trouble because I saw the guy you supposedly murdered in Europe after the time they think you killed him. He walked out and drugged blood behind him.
He knows that he didn't, and he's giving him a false alibi, or does he really think he saw this guy? Because again, through the whole movie, everybody is mistaken for everybody else. He could have had lunch with anybody, but thought it was the guy that Bateman murdered. Truthfully thought that it was the guy that Bateman murdered.
I mean, it could be.
The way I saw his expression, his reaction, he wasn't happy about having this conversation, because he's like, you're pushing your joke too far. That's what I got, is that you're pushing your joke too far. Obviously, it's a joke because I had lunch with the guy you're saying you murdered, and I don't want to discuss this anymore. It's stupid, and I'm walking away. That's how I saw it.
And I would give that, I was confused and delighted that I was confused, that I couldn't quite tell. But again, I think the supporting evidence from my point of view is that the realtor, when he goes back to the apartment where there are bodies, and
that I agree with you.
And she does not call the cops. She tells him to leave and never come back. Right? And it's inexplicable how quickly it was cleaned up, and she's showing it to somebody else to hide, quickly cover up the crime. I mean, there's no other explanation that I can see.
But do you think she knew he did it, or do you think she was just covering up because she wanted to sell the apartment? It had nothing to do with him at all.
A realtor would not, first of all, you could not in a normal world clean that up and put it on the market that quickly. You'd have to deal with the police and everything. Like, there has to be a cover-up.
Absolutely.
And she may not know that he is the individual, but she knows that he's the owner, and she can tell from his panicked.
But he wasn't the owner. He wasn't the owner,
or whatever. But she can tell from it. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. The guy who died was the owner.
Yeah, but there was multiple bodies, like in closets and
lots
stuff.
of bodies in the closet. Yeah. He was bringing people back to the apartment and killing them.
Yeah. So it was, again, she had to know, and her response would not fit unless she was a part of the cover-up. She tells him, don't ever come back. She doesn't say, I'm calling the cops. She doesn't even say, don't blow my deal. She says, don't ever come back. Like, hey, this is covered as long as you don't F it up.
I think a lot of that was ambiguous. And I think it was done that way on purpose. I mentioned a story previously, but I'm going to go over it again about Willem Dafoe's character. I will say that in the book, when he goes back to the apartment, it's Paul Allen's apartment, meaning, actually, his name was different in the book. It was Paul Owen. It had all of his furniture in it. It was the other guy's apartment.
Yeah.
I thought in the movie, they kind of make it so that you don't even know whose apartment it is, because when he goes in there, it's empty. Everything has been painted over.
Yeah.
It could be anyone's apartment, which for me leads to the conclusion or more evidence that it's all in his head. I mean, it's all in his head. Now, the realtor caught him in a lie, said, hey, you're coming here because of the ad in the Times. And he's like, yeah, the ad in the Times. And she's like, there was no ad in the Times. Right. So get out of here. Don't come back. Maybe it had to do with the fact that she thought, because she knew, or maybe she just knows the guy is freaking nuts. And like I said, the whole apartment was completely wiped clean. So maybe there were murders, or maybe, who knows? Like I said in the book, it was his apartment. It had all his furniture still in it. When Bateman walks in, he's like, this is Paul Allen's apartment, right? I mean, it's all his stuff. And she does the same thing.
Yeah.
In the book, it seemed more she knew what was going on and wanted him to leave because, and again, it's not in the movie, but I got the gist that she didn't want her money. She wanted her money. She didn't want to lose her deal of possibly selling this awesome apartment, which was worth more than Patrick Bateman's apartment, you know? So it was a big deal to her.
Yeah.
But again,
yeah.
I thought the whole thing was ambiguous. It was great.
Well, to
It
me,
leaves it-
it's interesting
Go
to
on.
hear you give that point of view, or to express that point of view. And I will say that my point of view, where it's really happening and not in his head, the last few scenes there when he completely loses it and just goes on that crazy spree and eventually blows up some cars with just by shooting at them twice or something, and it creates this big, like, that got way out of control, over the top that you can't imagine. Even within the logic of the film, you can't imagine how he would ever get away with it. I mean, he's running through the streets. He kills a woman right at the ATM machine on the street. It's how could he possibly get away with it? Like, and by the time the cop cars explode, I did think at that point, oh, this has all been in his head, or at least some of it's in his head. We don't know what's real and what's not. He's completely psycho, not in a playful way, but detached, or even a judgmental way. Like, he's just not there. But again, to me, the realtor and then the lawyer at the end, even like you said with her money, like, I don't think the lawyer was his buddy or was trying to help him because they're friends, but because of the money involved. Like, he's the owner's son. Everything you say still applies. The fact that nobody saw him.
I agree with everything you say too. It still applies.
Identity. Yeah.
It could go either way, which is why I'm gonna say one last thing. The notebook that his secretary finds, and it's got all these doodles, and all the doodles are basically the different things that he's done. You can see all, like, cutting someone with a chainsaw, and murdering someone with an axe. It's all doodled in there. So was he just doodling what he had done, or was it in his head? He didn't do it. He was just doodling it.
It could totally, and you brought up last little bit on that, and then we can go on to the checklist.
The last thing I'm going to say is the filmmakers, it seemed, wanted it to be ambiguous, wanted people to think exactly what you're thinking and exactly what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Because
it's a fairly well-known story that when they filmed the scenes of Willem Dafoe, who is the detective who's trying to find the murderer of Paul Allen, who is Patrick Bateman, they have him shoot it in 3 completely different ways. One was, I know you did it, Patrick Bateman. I know you did it. One was, maybe you did it, maybe you didn't. I'm going to try to find out. And the other one was, I know you're innocent. I don't even know why I'm here doing this interview. They did all 3 of those, and then they cut them all together when they, put the film together, edited. And so, of course, you have no idea what to believe.
It's brilliant.
And I think that was the point.
Yeah, truly brilliant. The more we talk about it, I'm, again, even more impressed that the ambiguity was on purpose.
Yes.
And then one little detail that I don't know if this was deliberate or not, but the chainsaw, when he drops the chainsaw.
Yeah, you mentioned that before.
Yeah, like, granted, the weight of the chainsaw could still kill you, but I took it to mean that
the chain would have stopped running.
But as soon as you let go of the button on the chainsaw, it stopped running, and it's just a weight. And that's not the way I took the scene to unfold. I was like, okay, either the filmmakers made a mistake, or this is all in his head. Like, this is not actually happening.
I think possibly, some of the things are really happening and some of them aren't. And I just don't think we're ever really going to know. Maybe.
Yeah. Like, clearly some of it, at least some of it. I mean, he's not like in an institution completely imagining all this. Some of this is he's out in the world, But okay, so there's the story. We've recapped the story. And then you have a list for us to go over, right? The criteria.
I will say, first of all, on the big spreadsheet, this movie right now, I believe, is number 61 all time in my top movies. 61, which doesn't seem really high. It's like you're saying, oh, your top 100, it's made it to 61. Dude, of the 10, 20, 30 million movies that have been made, to be number 61 on the list is pretty amazing. It's an awesome film.
That's top 100 all time. Like, that's
top 100 all time, and it's in there.
That feels about right to me. Like, it's an amazingly fun movie, but it's it's probably not top 10 or even top 20. Like, it is kind of relegated to its genre or its kind of shtick, even though it's super creative and super fun. It's not a family movie. It's not. I
No,
don't know that there's even one moment of genuine feel good where you feel good for anybody in the movie.
I don't think so.
There's a single happy moment in the whole movie.
No. Though I don't feel a movie has to make you happy to be a great movie.
No, it does. I'm just saying, but it just say like I can't imagine anybody putting it in their like top 10, not because it isn't a great creative movie that I don't see a whole lot of flaws in it from a filmmaking perspective, but the story is just, I don't know that you could ever get that high of a rank.
So, as far as the categories go, um, I have, I weight things differently. I don't know if you would feel the same way, but I have, there's 14 different categories, and four of them are all based on how good the actual story is. Because to me, that's one of the things that's the most important. You've got your story, you've got your, like I was saying, memorability. If you're constantly quoting the lines afterwards, if you totally remember scenes like the business card scene. I mean, you think of American Psycho, you think of the business card scene, or
Yeah,
I think of the scene at the end where he's confessing on the phone. I mean, there's just certain things that you immediately think of. I can't tell you how many movies I have watched in the last couple of years that I've been doing this, where I'm rewatching all these movies that I've already seen, even a lot of movies that I liked, just to give them specific grades on my
yeah,
list. And I'm like, I've seen this movie. I know I like this movie. I don't remember it at all. There were no real memorable scenes. And after I've watched it, I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, that was a good movie. And a couple of days later, I still, I could tell you what the movie was about, but
yeah,
nothing about it like goes, oh my God, there's that scene, there's that line, there's that whatever.
yeah,
Or even just that feeling it made you feel. You're talking about a feel good movie, you
yeah,
can remember the feeling that you felt. And American Psycho had a lot of those. So there's the story, the memorableness of it, dialogue and acting, and then the directing. If the camera work, if it was interesting. And I'm not one of those people who feels that a camera has to be like dipping and moving around and doing all sorts of stuff to be good. There's something called an invisible camera, which is, you're not supposed to notice the camera, but that doesn't mean that it's not doing really cool things and framing things in a way that's very artistic, or moving around in a way that you can see things well, and that the camera work itself shows you things, which I thought it did in American Psycho. So these are the things I look at when I'm thinking about how great a movie is. And the story, there's the setup, the middle, and the climax. The setup of American Psycho was fabulous. You talked about it, right from the get-go. He's describing who he is, but he's also describing who all the people in his life are, the people that he works with, his girlfriend, his mistress, uh, everybody. The setup to this movie I thought was wonderful. The middle, which is him slowly going crazier, is also pretty amazing. And then the end, the climax, where he just completely goes crazy. So I thought the story was really amazing. What'd you think about that?
Oh, I could, yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree. And I almost want to walk back my comment because I felt good watching the movie. It was so fresh and
Gives you
so
a
creative and enjoyable that
it
I
gives you a
just,
high, even though it's not
yeah,
a happy high. It's a high.
yeah, but and there's even a little bit of that because, we're not living that lifestyle. There's that little bit of joy that you get from the fact that they're living these vapid, hollow lives and they know it and they're not enjoying all of that. So that's not a good thing to admit, but there was a little bit of joy from that. And then noticed also, not to go back and talk more about the details, but he didn't really like anybody in his life. Like he talked
Yeah,
always about himself, and
yeah,
everybody else was indeed a supporting character, even from his point of view. He didn't like his fiance, he didn't like his lover, he didn't he didn't have anything negative to say about the prostitutes, but of course he did not treat them well. Like, and he hated all his male friends.
Yeah, in the book, the only person he cared about or liked in any way was one of his colleagues named Price, who was Justin Theroux in the movie. And Justin Theroux is, I don't remember if he was doing this. I think he mentioned it like very briefly in the movie that he was having an affair with Bateman's girlfriend. He was having an affair with Reese Witherspoon.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, I don't think Price knows that I know that he's having, and that's all that was mentioned.
Yeah. No, but I think he even said he's the only interesting character in his life. I think he did say something like, the only person I respect is screwing my fiance, or whatever. Yeah. And he goes, but then he goes right into but she doesn't know that I'm screwing her best friend. And it's just.
Exactly.
And the girl, Reese Witherspoon, was engaging, but also so completely vapid. Like she
vapid. Oh God, yes.
There's not one drop of realist, like person to her. Like she is a caricature, and
totally.
Yet as an actress, she pulls it off. Really.
Oh God, yeah, she was great. Yeah. And then the mistress, who actually seemed like she did have a lot of depth, only she was so drugged out of her mind all the time that it smoothed it all over. You didn't see any of it. All I got was a sense of sadness. She was just really sad.
Yeah, she was probably the most realistic of somebody who's trapped in that world but can't imagine leaving it because it's such a wealth and privilege, and yet she was miserable to the point where she was not there from drugs. Like, she kept herself numb the whole time. And even they would talk about their spouses like as friends. They were lovers, but they were also more like buddies because they talked, I think, without any emotion or jealousy, and she wanted him to continue seeing her, but she was never talked about like leaving.
A last thing I will mention is one of the categories is profundity, how profound a movie is. I thought this was really profound considering the different themes, and also if it makes you feel some sort of emotion, which we talked about. This doesn't give you like that feel good thing. It doesn't make you cry. It doesn't make you happy or sad or whatever. But I thought that because I found his life and his views so profound, that in itself gave me a really cool feeling that has stuck with me for 25 years that I've seen the movie.
Yeah. I would agree with that. It does. I mean, I was going to say it doesn't hit you over the head, but it does. It comes out and smacks you in the face with its themes, like in the opening minutes of the movie. And yet the way that it does it is not preachy. It's entertaining,
Totally. And then by the end, when most movies would have some sort of a catharsis, he specifically says, there is no catharsis.
Yeah.
I not only have I not changed and I feel pain, I want everybody to feel my pain, and I will never get out of this. And that's it. And I think that that's listening to that it caused me emotion. I'm like, wow, that's freaking deep. Even though it's crazy, but it was powerful, I thought.
It was powerful.
So it totally had profundity.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And now that we're discussing it, I would say they chose the main character is a villain. He's not an anti-hero. You don't ever root for him. But right at the very end, you have that empathy of where he basically tried to confess and to bring it all to an end. And yet he couldn't get out. That was his out, right?
Yeah. I mean, but now you're making me think. You're making me think. Because I would agree with you. Dude is a villain. And yet maybe he was an anti-hero. Because through the whole movie, he's trying to confess and get himself caught.
Well, true. Yeah. So that's interesting, right? Because he's the straight man. Even though he's the villain, he's the straight man in the movie. He's the one who says, all of this is crazy. All of you are crazy. This is
Yeah, he sees the
there's
craziness in the other people.
yeah.
They don't
He
see it in
keeps telling
themselves,
them.
and they don't see it in him, which
It
is
was
crazy, right?
fantastic. I smiled, and it's like maybe the first third of the movie, like when they're out at the bar and they hook up with those girls at the bar, and or they're
Yeah,
talking with them anyway. And what did he say? She's like, "What do you do?" And he's like, "I'm in
murders and executions.
murders and executions." And he says it bluntly. And of course, what does she hear? Oh, yeah, most people I know in mergers and acquisitions don't actually enjoy their job. Like she's saying, all this money isn't worth it, but she's there partying with him and ready to go home with him, and like and ignoring him completely to the point where she just physically doesn't hear what he's saying. You know?
Exactly. And you mentioned it with the first girl who's the bartender. He
Yeah,
says, I hate you. I want to murder you and dance around in your blood, something like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I wasn't sure because it's the very beginning. Like, so I don't know. Did she not hear? It's really loud. It's a bar.
Yeah,
Did she
yeah.
just ignore him because people say stupid stuff? Or just she didn't hear him because you just don't hear when people say things that you don't expect them to hear. I will tell you, it's sort of similar to what we're talking about. My name is Heath, and it's somewhat unusual. It's somewhat an unusual name, especially when I was a kid, in the 80s. Nobody had that
Right.
name.
No,
And I
you're
would
the
go up
only
to
one I
people
know.
and people would say, "Hey, what's your name?" I would say Heath. They didn't hear it. They just didn't hear it. They would say, "Oh, Seth. Oh, Keith. Oh, Pete. I got all sorts of stuff." I'm like, Heath with an H, with an H. I'm like, "Oh, really?" Because
Right.
people hear what they want to hear. They just
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, yeah. No, your brain has already moved on. You're waiting for your next chance to talk. You're not actually listening
Yes.
to the person. And when it's
Yes.
something out of your database of your usual expected things to hear, you either substitute what you expected because you weren't really listening. Again, the more we talk, I think both sides are just constantly reinforced through the movie. It had to be on
Absolutely.
purpose. Yeah,
Absolutely.
which makes me like it even more. The fact that
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which makes me not understand. I will, if we're going to start wrapping things up,
yeah.
if we have anything last words on this movie, I can't understand how this director hasn't done anything since. Because this was freaking great movie.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'd have to
Yeah,
see the other credits to have an idea. And the movie business is such a effed up business. Like who knows? But also, not to take anything away from the directing, which was fantastic. I mean, from the storytelling to the cinematography, like everything that would be encapsulated underneath director was fantastic.
I
But
agree.
they did have a very special story to start with. So the writer helped, right? If you don't have that same writer for your next films, then they're not going to be the same. It's
The
I
two
think
women, the writer and the director, were friendly and they were sort of a team and they did things afterwards, though they didn't do anything based on the novelist's writing. So maybe that was where it came from. It's
I am
it
intrigued
is
though to see the other works now. I think it'd be worth seeing at
Yeah,
least
you can look up their credits. They don't have very much.
I'm
Not
not
neither of
watching
them have
anything
very
with a
many.
porn star as the lead actor, but anything.
That was actually that was the Bret Easton Ellis. That was the writer who wrote a
Oh, oh,
screenplay
oh,
and
okay.
became, and that was not good. That was not a good movie.
Yeah.
Although the
Mhm.
star of the movie, aside from James Dean, was Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay Lohan was trying to break out of her good girl mode at the time, and
Right.
so she did this movie it was really sexually based. I couldn't tell you what the story was. I don't remember. All I remember was that she was naked a lot, and James Dean was in it. That's about it.
Huh.
Yeah.
That is bizarre to hear that because I mean it's basically a sounds like a softcore porno, and Lindsay
It's
Lohan
it
chose to
was.
be
Yeah.
in a movie with a porn star. Yeah, I
Yes.
know that
Yeah.
she was off the rails and everything, but
Yeah.
again, there's your Patrick Bateman character, Lindsay Lohan herself
There
living a
was
Patrick
a
Bateman life.
there was a sequel to American Psycho. I can't remember what the name of it was, if it was American Psycho 2 or whatever. Nobody who was involved in the first movie was involved in this sequel. I want to say, and I could be pulling this out of my butt, it could be completely wrong, but I want to say that the character of the Psycho was Mila Kunis.
Huh.
And it was supposedly just really awful.
Well, now again, I have to look it up. Even if,
I didn't see it.
despite the warning, I'm sure
see
that's accurate. I'm sure it didn't somehow turn out to be a great film and underappreciated or anything like that. But still, I'm curious.
And Bret Easton Ellis, the writer of American Psycho, wrote another novel before American Psycho. It was called The Rules of Attraction.
Yeah.
And it was about Patrick Bateman's younger brother while he's in college.
Huh.
And I started reading it. I only got like maybe 100 pages into it. Not very. It's a really short book, but I only made it about 100 pages into it. And then I decided they made a movie of it, so I was going to watch the movie. And it was awful. It was really bad. It was really bad. Do you
Really?
remember? Do you remember James
I never saw
Vanderbeek
it, but yeah.
from Dawson's Creek? He was the star. He was Patrick
Oh.
Bateman's younger brother.
Oh.
And yeah, it was not a good movie in any way.
Huh.
As someone who has adapted books into screenplays, it takes a lot of skill to take a book. You'd think, oh, it's so easy because the story's there. You know the story is good. You just make it into a script. There is so much more involved in it. Choosing what to take, what to cut, what scenes to embellish, what scenes to get rid of and write your own, just completely all your own that have nothing to do with the book. There's a lot involved to make it actually good. And there's two examples. American Psycho was fabulously adapted. I believe, no, it wasn't up for best screenplay. I don't think it was up for best adapted screenplay. But the movie we're going to talk about in the next episode did win the Oscar for best adapted screenplay. We'll get to that later. But The Rules of Attraction was just completely awful. So one book, same source material, same writer. One was amazing. One was complete crap. So there you go.
Well,
so you ready to wrap it up?
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
So we're going to be doing some episodes based on Christian Bale's movies. And I believe we decided that the next one is going to be The Big Short. Correct?
Yeah. Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
So we're going to say goodbye from the 6th row center seat. And we'll talk to you next time about The Big Short.
Bye-bye.
Later.